So today we're really excited. This is Wealth Edit Wednesday. If you haven't been on before, every Wednesday we interview an interesting woman that we want to hear all about. And maybe she's a business owner, or maybe she just has a cool story. Today we're interviewing co-founder of the Wealth Edit, Emily Lassiter. And we did this on purpose today because we have a big announcement at the end of the call that we will share with you that has to do, really was inspired by her story. So anyway, just welcome.
Yeah.
So glad
Thank y'all for being
today.
here to listen. I'm excited to share.
I know. Okay, so tell us your story. Start from the beginning.
Oh goodness. So I grew up in, I'm just gonna start where I grew up, just as a quick background, but I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, went to Auburn, and then went to law school at the University of Alabama. I got married while I was in law school, so I was married my third year of law school, which was really fun. And my husband was a couple of years behind me in law school, so that's how we ended up in Birmingham. So he was still in school in Tuscaloosa, and we bought our first house in Homewood, and I started work in Birmingham, and he commuted back and forth. When he graduated from law school 2 years later, he actually came and worked at the same law firm that I did, which was really fun. People think that's crazy, but it was a good fit, especially for new attorneys, because we got to spend time together in a profession that usually you don't see your spouse that much, especially when you're first starting out. So that was fun. And then several years later, had our first daughter, Mary Jane, and then 2 years later, had Camille. Throughout all that time, I was able to continue to work. I had a great job that let me work 2 or 3 days a week, but sort of stayed engaged in the legal practice, did a lot of medical malpractice work with an insurance company. And then, gosh, now it's hard to believe, 6 years ago, my husband, who was also an attorney, as I said, but also enjoyed flying planes for a hobby, and did a lot of work in Texas, would fly back and forth to his meetings. And on one of those flights, his plane crashed and he died. And obviously it was very unexpected and life altering. And so that is kind of where this story that I'm going to share begins.
Yeah.
At that moment, because so many times women have asked me, now looking back, like, you know, what did you do at that moment? Like, did you think that you were going to be okay? Did you not think you were going to be okay? And then how did you make the move forward with a new life? And so that's kind of where my pivoting journey began, because thankfully I was blessed that I could stay at home with my girls for a couple of years, which I did. Stayed and just focused on them and getting our life back in order. Didn't work. But on year 3, I found myself doing crazy things like being PTO president and volunteering for anything and everything, and anybody that would take me, I did it. I was ready to be busy again, and that was kind of fun because I could feel myself starting to reemerge and wanting to reengage, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I sort of started this journey. I was like, I know I don't want to practice law full time in the traditional sense. I knew being a full-time attorney was not going to be great for me and what my girls needed. And so I wanted to start thinking outside of the box and figure out where I would fit with this new role of being a single mom. And I really was very insecure. I didn't know what I had to offer that was outside of the legal profession. And I was insecure about what time I had to give. I wasn't sure like if I was going to be able to juggle it all. I think that was probably my greatest insecurity there. I just felt, my dad is a financial advisor, and he and I had worked together to really kind of figure out what my timeline was and how much I needed to make. And I remember telling my dad at the end of the first 2 years, I said, if I just jump back into a new job full time, the wheels are going to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. And what I loved about him in that moment was he said, that's fine. You don't have to do it right now. Just keep your eye on the goal though, and kind of watch what doors open to help you achieve the goal. And in our case, my goal was I had an income goal. So I knew that I needed to make between, and I guess I shouldn't, I needed to make between 85,000 and 100,000 to make my budget work and to be able to continue to plan for things in the future. And that was really concrete. He showed me the math. We looked at my expenses over the past 2 years, and that was what I needed to do. And he said, honestly, the world's your oyster, but that's one of your goals. That's probably your main goal in what you're doing. And that was a realistic goal. I did have a law degree. I had made that in the past, so it wasn't like, I had never had a job before and I want to jump in. So that was important, and I understood it was a realistic goal. And so that was probably the number one thing that I used to launch my new step forward or my pivot.
So when you went into it, you said, okay, I've gone from, it's been a big 6 years. So you've gone from dual to single income.
Yep.
You kind of took a pause.
Yep.
To be with your girls. And you said that was about 2 years.
Yep.
So you just kind of became you and your dad, who's a financial advisor, which that was really great that you had someone that you could talk to.
It made the biggest difference.
Yeah. So you and your dad just kind of studied your finances for a couple of years.
Right. And it's funny, the financial minimalism course that we have on the Wealth Edit now very much follows what we did.
Really?
Yeah. We tracked spending. We looked at what my monthly expenses were as well as my yearly costs, factoring in things like camp. Do the girls want to go to camp? Can we continue to afford to do that? And then really paid attention to unexpected expenses, like having to get a new air conditioning.
Right.
Like really tried to figure out what that budget looked like and not skimping. We didn't just do the monthly. We also looked at more yearly expenses as well.
And just kind of keeping, if you could, the lifestyle that you'd become accustomed to.
Right.
And, but obviously being careful.
And it was it was definitely maintaining the lifestyle. I was perfectly willing, and I have definitely made adjustments in my spending and vacation budgets and stuff like that. But also it was looking forward. Yeah. So it was really teaching me how to look into the future, sending the girls to college, my retirement, things like that, because so much so I think as when you're in a dual income family and the husband is handling the investments and the wife is paying the bills, which was the case for us and seems to be the case for many, many others, it was the shift for me was not like understanding our finances on a month-to-month basis, but understanding the long-term plan.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that my dad really helped me understand was this isn't just about your month-to-month spending. This is about looking all the way until you're 99.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. Which you just hadn't done before. It's not that you couldn't do it, it's just you hadn't done it.
It just had not been my priority, and I didn't feel like it was my role in the family. And so that was an interesting shift for me. But, in coming up with that salary, we were looking long-term. We weren't just looking at month to month.
Right. So for those of you who joined the call, Emily lost her spouse about 6 years ago, and we're kind of going through the journey of where she's gone and what steps she took, because she took some really great healthy steps in how to kind of work through going from a dual to a single income. And so what she did is she kind of studied her expenses for 2 years, and then after that they kind of came up with a number, like what does she need to make in order to keep the lifestyle up that she'd become accustomed to. Of course, she was willing to make changes if she needed to, but could she do that? Could she get to this number? So tell us about kind of going out into the world and needing or wanting to make X amount. Like, how did you sort of frame those conversations? How did you think about different options that you had that were available to you?
Well, so it really has been an interesting and actually quite humorous journey, because I've taken a lot of little, I didn't take the interstate to where I am now. I took the back roads for sure. I went the scenic route, and but I'm really excited about where I am now, because I'm just, each stop, even if it wasn't like my long-term stop, I learned something along the way that has helped me get to where I am. So my first stop was, I went to work with a nonprofit. They took students to France in the summers, and they offered me the opportunity to bring my girls and to go in the summer and help with that, which was
amazing.
And it was just kind of a fun surprise for me. I love to travel. I always have. Every summer of my life since I was 16, I have created some paths to get out of the country. I spent summers in London and in Australia. I called anybody I knew that would take me, and I would find a job and go live with them. But that was a really fun adventure for us. And I know people thought I was absolutely crazy for doing this. I mean, all of my closest friends were like, what are you doing? My family. But we just needed an adventure. The girls and I needed that, and we needed to get away. I have said that my time in France, we did it for 3 summers, has specially equipped us for quarantine.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what we did in France. We didn't see anybody. We ate at the house. We stayed with the people we were with. We made an occasional outing. We went to the grocery store. They never had
French grocery stores.
They don't have anything we wanted.
Except for wine. They had plenty.
Lots of wine. Yeah. Again, very much like So we did that, and after my first summer there, they offered me a job full-time, and I turned them down. This was actually the summer before I committed to being PTO president, so I came back and did that. The second summer we went, they offered me a job to be legal counsel, which seems a little crazy, but they were trying to establish themselves in France, so I got to dive into that, kind of put my legal hat back on, and that was really fun. And then after that third summer, I knew it was time to get focused.
Yeah.
I had, been making like $25,000 a year. It was not going to work. It was not on my long-term plan. But I will say, I again have to give my dad huge credit for this. He was very patient with me finding, because I would just say, I know where I'm going. But right now, this seems like the next right step. It just felt like the next right step for me. Maybe I was finding out a little bit about who I was as a single mother. My girls and I had to reconnect on that, establish new roles and identities, and it was just a really precious time for us that I will never forget. Okay, so I come back. I know it's time to get busy, and I had said, that was like at the end of November, I took off for Christmas season, and then I said, the day the girls go back to school, I'm going to start making calls. And I think it was about that time was the first time that Lindsay Druid introduced us, and we have a mutual friend, and she said, I don't know where you are with jobs, but I just want you to talk to Lauren Pearson. She is doing some amazing things, and just something about the two of y'all, I think y'all should connect. And during that time we did connect, but you were just starting, were you just leaving Twickenham and starting in the Birmingham office? And so she wasn't really in a position. I certainly didn't know what I would do for you, as an attorney, but I just loved making the connection. And I started connecting with people kind of all over town. But I had said that day that the girls went back to school, I was going to really completely focus my attention on figuring out what I'm going to do next. And I got a job from a family friend who needed an attorney to help with some marketing with their insurance company. It seemed like not at all what I wanted to do, but just the timing of it was wild, and they offered me exactly what I needed to make. And I will pause here and talk about something that I'm working on an article right now that should be up this week. But because my dad and I had spent so much time really looking at my finances and figuring out what I needed to make, when I was in the interview and they asked me specifically, how much do you want to make? That question comes up a lot. And people sort of like, well, I don't know, what are you offering? Well, I decided at this point, I didn't have anything to lose. This was not really my dream job. And I absolutely love the people, so I was excited to go work with them, but I knew like I just didn't see myself doing it forever, but I just said, I need to make $85,000 a year. And I remember they paused and were like, okay. And then I said, well, and let me tell you why. And I kind of went through exactly what my dad and I had done. And I ended up doing that with almost every single one of my interviews from then throughout to where I am now. And every single time, every offer that I've gotten has been that number or higher.
And which is really important because I think sometimes when, you know, men have no problem saying like, I need to make $250,000 a year. I mean, they can just say it and it just like floats off the tongue. Where women, it's like, but I've had babies and I've taken this time off and but, and we kind of do that to ourselves because I don't know why we do that, but we do, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And that was like, that's what I'm trying to say is I was very insecure. And one of the reasons why this job, this at Capital Strategies really appealed to me was because it was an 8 to 4 job. I could be home with the girls. The salary was right. The benefits were right. It seemed very, very safe. And I was so insecure about what I really had to offer that was very appealing.
Right.
Because again, I was, oh no, I'm going to be at work 5 days a week. Who's going to be doing the stuff at home that needs to get done? You know, the girls thankfully are older. They're 15 and 13 now. So that, you know, they were
10 and 12.
Yeah, but I mean, they could walk home from school or carpool and be home for 15 or 20 minutes until I got there. So, but I just was really insecure about what I had to offer. And so I took a safe option. And the reason why I say that and the reason why I'm harping on that is because this is kind of like, you have to build your confidence.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I had that option. You know, life insurance is a good thing. I had like some room to wiggle. I didn't have to like immediately make any, you know.
Right.
So I, you know, that really kind of, each one of these steps was building my confidence.
Yeah.
Is basically what happened. So, but about 3 weeks into Capital Strategies, I knew it wasn't the right fit because I was bored. I was bored and I thought, okay, well, with safe and predictable comes not so exciting. And I thought,
and you're the type of person that steals away every year to like
summer in France. I like to like summer in France and do things like that. So, which I knew was completely unrealistic. We would never do that again, but still it was fun while it lasted. So what I really at that point thought, okay, so here I am in this job. It's predictable, it's structured, it checks my income box. So what's kind of neat about it is it gave me an entire year earning an income and being able to complete my job, but also have a lot of time to really brainstorm about what I wanted to do. And this was something that I came to very prayerfully and really started kind of opening my eyes beyond the super predictable and safe. Mm-hmm. Because what I realized at that point was if I am really going to do something that is satisfying to me, I have to take a risk.
Yeah, and to see like this job that, you know, was giving you sort of what you needed, which is, you know, predictable income, and taking that and being okay that it's a step, so it's not forever. It's not like you're going to be in a job that wasn't the perfect fit for you forever. You can really use the time as a gift,
right,
to like plan your next step,
right,
which is what you did.
And that's exactly what I did. And I really did have the epiphany though that it might have been the job that was like looked good on paper, but for my heart and what I wanted to do, it wasn't the right fit.
Right.
And I realized and I had to take a chance.
Yeah.
Like I had to take a chance on me.
Yeah.
I had to build my confidence up and decide, you know, okay, well, what do I want to do? Right. Really, you know, let's just look out and see. And so one of the things that was happening kind of simultaneously during this time was I had a group of widows that we had, just through word of mouth, gotten together. We would text each other. We had a text chain, and people would maybe ask questions about if they were having a hard time with one of their children, or let's say somebody was trying to figure out what type of health insurance they should get on now that they weren't on their spouse's insurance, or how to get a new will, who they were using, those kind of things. And so I was answering a lot of those questions. I mean, so many estate planning questions are legally related. But then some of the more like technical financial questions I was texting to my dad, he was answering them, and then I was sending them back. And in those conversations and, just meeting up with people, I was asking them, well, tell me what your financial advisor is telling you. Like, how are they serving you?
Right.
And they would say, well, they don't do anything. They just invest the money. And I was like, wait, what? And of course, I'm like, well, my financial advisor is my dad, but I kind of think this is what he does with all his clients. Why are their advisors not doing the same thing? And so I decided, I've got this great idea. While I've got this downtime kind of at work, I'm going to start reaching out to other advisors and ask them if maybe they would be willing to set up like a volunteer program where advisors would meet with a widow or even somebody that was newly divorced, hear their situation, and then if they weren't the right fit, send them to somebody who was. Because what I was realizing just on the surface was financial advisors are not all the same. They're different practices, offer different services, and what might be a good fit for one person might not be a good fit for another. So somebody who had no life insurance will have different needs than somebody who had a ton of life insurance and then all the spectrum in the middle. And so I just started reaching out to different advisors that I knew in town and said, hey, would you be willing to talk to me? I've got this idea for widows. And then just the most interesting thing started to happen. So I started to meet with them, and one of the first ones that I met with, when I got to the office, she had brought in like her partner, their marketing director, their IT guy, and they were all, and I was like, wow, these people are really taking it seriously. This might be a fantastic idea. I'm so proud of myself. And of course, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, well, maybe we could start a nonprofit that funds, again, I really don't even know that much about the business. I mean, I know a lot just because my dad was an advisor or is an advisor in Montgomery, or, just having different friends and understanding like the legal side of it, but I didn't really understand all the ins and outs. And at that first meeting, they asked me if I would consider coming to work for them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, what? I don't do this. That's crazy. No. And then I think I reached back out to you at that point because I was like, Lauren, I know this is what you do. Like, hear me out, hear what I want to do, and tell me why these people would be offering me a job. I don't understand. And you were so encouraging. You're like, no, you totally need to do this.
Yeah.
And it was 4th of July weekend. I went to the lake to see my parents. And so I sat my dad down and I shared it with him. I was like, are these people crazy? And he said, you know what? I actually think that might be a fantastic idea.
And can I pause?
Yeah.
So in the financial advisor ecosystem, only 14% of people who are client facing are women. So it is just completely male dominated. So I'm sure when Emily with her cute self came in, it was like, I have this great idea. People are like, you're hired, that's just what it is. And it's such a huge need.
Yeah.
In our industry.
Well, it's funny, at one of the interviews, this was with a firm that really takes only very high-end clients. I knew in my heart that was probably not the best fit for me at this point in my interviewing, because I knew I wanted to serve everyday women. That I wasn't looking to serve only the ultra rich. But they, I asked the managing partner. I said, hey, he offered me a job, like kind of on, this way. I was like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, why in the world?
Right.
Why do you want to hire me? Like, it makes no sense. And they kind of laughed and were like a little taken aback that this person, they've just offered this job. And he said, well, I'll be honest with you. He said, one, you're a female, and we have no females in this industry. Mm-hmm. Two, you're an attorney, so we know that you already know most of everything that we know, and you can learn the rest. Mm-hmm. and 3, you're a widow. And he said, we all strive to connect with the widow community. And he said, we want to serve women and widows well for all the obvious reasons, but also just from a business perspective, widows were about to own over half the wealth in the United States, just based on, I guess it's called the Great Wealth Transfer. The baby boomers are dying and their wives are outliving them. And so I thought, oh wow, like this is not only are they loving me, but this is a real business decision. And I think it was at that point that I decided, okay, I'm gonna really consider making this move.
Yeah.
And that was a really huge step or leap of faith for me and myself.
Because it isn't as safe, and explain why.
Well, it wasn't safe, one, because I have had to go back to school.
Yeah.
I've had to learn. 2, I have to market myself and what I can offer my clients, and I have never had to do that before.
And how does that feel?
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's
awful.
absolutely awful. But the cool thing about it is when you feel really passionate about what you are doing and you really see the need, like there's nothing that makes me more excited now when I can get in front of somebody and say, I can help you. And not only can I help you just with all the financial side of it, I really want to help you like rethink your future and empower you to like make a move that maybe you would have never made before. Like not only invest in the markets and with your money, but invest in yourself. Right. And I know we had a conversation with somebody last week, and I love being able to say this to her, but like your biggest asset is yourself.
Absolutely.
And she just has so much to offer. And I was just so excited that we could say that to her, and just to sort of watch that spark in her eye, like when she's realizing like, you know, I really can do something. I can do something exciting. Anyway, that has just been like so fun, because now what I have found is, you know, originally I thought the safe was where I needed to be.
Right.
And now what I'm finding is this uncomfortable, like pushing myself is really what's like providing so much joy and life again. And even though it's not pretty, I think people that have like walked this journey with me have been probably talking about it on the back. Thinking, what is she doing? Like, why is she making these choices? But I think now that they're starting to see, oh wait, each step was just one step closer to finding like where she really fits.
And I think that that's the thing that I've seen. So I've been in private practice for 13 years with clients, lots of women. And Emily's finding this too, is it's that confidence gap. Like that's why we created the Wealth Edit. And also because, and this is why we have glide paths, because Emily and I, like, we're great friends. You know, if you were having wine with both of us, like you would not know that we had different stories, you know, but our financial stories could not be more different. And that's the thing, is like, we just really are so passionate about women finding like, okay, so what, you've been, you know, working part-time for 6 years. Okay. Well, like, what do you want to do? And like, let's help you get there and instill the confidence where you can ask for 75, 150, 350,000 a year. I mean, I don't know what your skill set is or your goals or why you need it, but figuring out why you need it and making a case for yourself, it is, men have been doing that for centuries. So we just need to do it too, and learn to have some kind of comfortable language around how that happens. But anyway, so yeah, it's very exciting. All right, I'm going to open up for questions for a few minutes, and then we do have something that we want to tell y'all, because in the nature of this story, which is just, thank you for sharing so vulnerably, and also it's just such helpful information to so many people. And maybe it's not helpful today, but maybe if you lose your spouse 5 years from now, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're like, oh, I remember. This is something that I know about. So anyway, if you, did you have
now I was just going to say, and thank you to Lauren, because she's one of those people that took the chance on me.
Well, so
thank you.
You're welcome. We would.
I'm super excited to be a part of all this, and excited about the Wealth Edit and what it has to offer. I just really, this is like, it's so cool how we've been brought together, because Lauren was already working on this and has allowed me to jump on board and just be a part. And it's just so fun to watch where my heart started 2 or 3 years ago to like all of a sudden be here. And y'all know that I must really feel passionate about it if I'm on a Zoom call. Sharon. I hate social media, but I am working so hard to embrace it.
We've decided that like the ultimate sacrifice for your business or what you want to push out there is like to turn the camera on yourself. It is not fun. It's just the worst. All right, so if you have a question for Emily, just unmute your line, or there's a little chat feature. We'll just open it up for a couple minutes.
Is there a aside from writing down your monthly, the 14 days writing down your expenses and then progressing that to your monthly, it's a little daunting for me because, during this, I'm like, oh, I need to support this business. Oh, I need to go buy this. I feel like I'm actually spending more money right now than typical, or maybe I'm just realizing more, I don't know. But is there a, I guess, way to know when you're buying like these frivolous things, or if it's actually a good thing, or I guess maybe even like a spreadsheet for, this is kind of where you should be at? That might be a loaded question.
Yeah, no, it's not, because that has been really hard for me, especially because I'm gonna just use summer camp as an example, because I'm sure a lot of us have had to make that decision. I'll never forget that first year I had signed both of my girls up to go to camp, and Joe died in February. So March was the deadline for making the final payment, and you could cancel and get your money back. And so, I was like, can I afford this? Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I remember sitting down with my dad, and he was like, yes, it's fine. Like, just go ahead. Don't take that away from the girls. So we had to weigh that out. And then going forward after that, 2 things here is, one, give yourself some grace. I mean, there are going to be some things that are just important to you, and you make that choice to invest in them. It is the way it is. And so for me, a lot of times that was making the decision, okay, it's really important to me that we go on a vacation. It's less important to me that we have all the best clothes on all the time. I mean, so for me, a wardrobe, I'd rather skimp and wear the same thing over and over again and go on a really great vacation. So that was really helpful for me. I had to say, okay, I'm going to spend on this so I can't spend on this. But then I also did, I think really kind of maybe bucket budgeting is a word that I like to use with that. So I tried to keep my spending within my month, if whatever was deposited in my bank account. I worked really hard to get a number where that went into my bank account, and when that was getting low, I pulled back my spending for the month. That was helpful for me. It was just like a really concrete visual. But that allowed me to say, I don't want to spend, I'm not going to spend, like maybe we're not going to eat out this week because I know next week we're going to blow it out with this. Yeah. And that helped me, that 1 month picture, rather than trying to look at it as a year or 10 years, was really, really helpful. But it is a little daunting, but I would just really encourage you to give yourself grace, because it is definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. And you just get a little bit better over time. And that's the same thing with, maybe your first negotiation, if you're negotiating for yourself, doesn't go that great. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one will go better.
Listen,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like the first one's for sure going to be a bust. Yeah. And then the next one, it'll go a little bit better.
And have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Because you got to level out.
Exactly. And then let me see if there's, what do you wish that you'd done prior to your husband's death to prepare financially?
Oh,
that's a good question.
That is
Thank you for asking that.
Fantastic question. So like I told y'all, I did pay the bills, but I wish that I had taken a more active role in thinking through our long-term plan. I just thought, well, he's got it. He understands. And I wish
And
I
it's
had
very
just,
much part of Southern culture to feel that way.
yes.
It's almost like tied to masculinity to take care of the
Mhm.
big, and tied to femininity in some way to like, you know that someone else is handling that in some
Mhm.
ways. You know, like you see, I see this so much. We see this so much
Right.
that it's hard to. It's a delicate thing, and in the
It
South
is.
specifically, maybe everywhere, but we just live in the South.
And maybe I shouldn't say this, I'm sorry, Joe, for saying this, but Joe was not like the most detailed person. He really wasn't. He was like a nutty professor, and he was so smart and number one in his law class and like what. But like when it came down to the details, he was so busy like thinking about his business. That was not, and I allowed that to happen. And I wish that I had been like, you know what, I got this, because I really would have been better suited to handle it from the get-go.
Right.
And I didn't. And it wasn't that it wasn't even an issue with us. Like I never even thought, you know, I should like insert myself here.
Right.
And I wish I'd had more confidence to say, you know what, I will take that off your plate. I will also interject, since I just kind of threw him under the bus a little bit, that I would be so kind if he came back and I knew he was working so hard to provide for our family, because being in the role of being the sole provider for your family is a big deal, and it's hard. And I love our husbands for doing that.
Yeah.
For those of us that have that, and I also love the women that are taking on that role, and I applaud those who are stepping in with their husbands and truly understanding what they're doing and supporting them, because it's hard.
It's hard. So, she's gonna make me cry. That's what she does. Pretty much daily. And I think, what would you say, because in those first few days, and this is my last question, I know we're going over, but it's just such an important call today, and there's so many. We'll have Emily talk again, because there's just so many things to know about. But I remember, and my mom is on the call. Hi, Mom. But my mom was on the call today. That I remember when my grandmother, her mother, passed away, and this is just so sweet. These roles were like, she thought because he was gone that there was like no more money, you know. And so those first days, like the first days after a tragedy, you know, maybe you find out you're getting divorced, you find out you're widowed, you're finding out you lost your parents and you have to do this. What would you say? Like, what would you say to us in those first couple of days after?
Gosh, that's for another hour.
Yeah.
But I would say get your team. Get a team in place. So if you and your spouse have an advisor, get to know them now. And if you don't like them, shop it around, because that person's very, very important. And there really are those of us that do so much more than just invest the money. Like my dad and we had another family friend that helped, and they walked alongside me for every bit of it. And I so appreciated that, because even though I really like understood the concepts of everything I was doing, I needed somebody to say, hey, Emily, today, I know it's just been a week since your husband died, but we've already been talking to the attorney and they've got a new will for you to sign, because we need you to sign it. You know, the next week, hey, we've got the new life insurance, the nurse is coming over to do. I mean, just kept it moving so that I could grieve. But I also, there was a piece that came with that, because I knew I was getting stuff done. And, you know, sometimes it's kind of like, you know, that like feeling when you're, I know I need to go on a diet. I don't want to go on a diet. And it kind of like hangs over your head. Then when you start, you're like, okay, well, that's so good. This is great. It was kind of like that, but it was like forced, you know. But I thought, okay, I know I'm grieving. I know this is awful, but like, okay, I've got my team in place. I've got my people that are taking care of me. And just as an aside that really doesn't have anything to do with finances, is let other people help you. Let them help you. And not only does it help you, it also helps them. And it has just been some of my sweetest relationships have formed by allowing people into my life to help me. And it has been such a blessing. And those of my friends that I had before that have walked this journey with me they're so dear. And they're so much a part of who we are in our lives that I wouldn't trade it. Yeah, I really wouldn't. So Thanks to all of y'all who are on the call.
Yeah.
And helped me.
Well, okay, so here's what we're doing that is very in line with kind of Emily's story and the wealth edit and what we feel comfortable just putting out there into the world is we have raised currently right now $15,000 and we're trying to raise 25. So we're thinking we're going to get there. But we are going to, what we learned in the last recession is that female-owned businesses, and this is just very female of us, we, instead of putting more money into their business during the recession, they really focused on cost cutting to get them through the crisis, which is an important part. But when they looked back, so, you know, you think 2007, 2008, 2009, people are just trying to get through. When they interviewed these female business owners in 2012, a lot of times their revenue and their workforce were reduced because of these kind of measures that they took during the recession. So we have gotten together with several female founders, and if you want to join us, come on, we're still raising money for the next couple of days, and nobody knows about this yet. We're going to launch on Monday, but we are going to give between $15,000 and $25,000 to a female-owned business or an idea that's like, hey, it's not going to get you through what you're currently working on today in this potential recession, but can you invest time and resources now towards your next idea? So almost giving you a little growth plan for the next cycle. So we're pretty excited about it. We're calling it the Pivot Fund. And anyway, so if you have an idea, if you know of a female business owner that has been looking to do something for 2 years and just hasn't made it happen, then call us or email us, because we will start accepting nominations on Monday, and we're going to run it for about 2 weeks. So it's exciting. It's something fun that we're doing. So anyway, so you can help spread the word, but if you also know of a female-owned business that would want, right now I think we have 8 business owners that are helping us, and we think we'll end up around 12 or 13. So anyway, it's exciting. We're excited to lead this effort. And it's going to be for like a Southeastern business owner, because we're just really committed to, while we have members everywhere and we're committed to have members everywhere, in the Southeast we just have this ethos around us that we're trying to break through a little bit. So anyway,
we're excited, and I know that I'm so thankful for the people that gave me a chance and gave me that launch.
Yeah.
And I hope that we'll get to do that for somebody else.
So anyway, thanks. Okay, and then next week, I think Reagan's still on the call, but Reagan Kane from the Francis Slayer is going to join us, and we cannot wait. So anyway, that'll be a public call. So we open one of these calls up a month to anybody who's considering being a Wealth Edit member. But anyway, we're grateful for y'all, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much. Bye.